Today we're getting into what's either the most epic or most depressing T-Rex battle video ever, dude. I'm pretty excited. Leave a like, subscribe to Goshi Center, and let's get into it. Okay, REXY vs. Sue in the T-Rex battle face-off.
Today, the battle arena will witness two of the most iconic predators in history clash in a battle that will determine who is the superior Rex.
Oh my god.
On one end, the relentless predator that does not take no for an answer. With feared reputation and queen of Isla Nublar, Jurassic's REXY. On the other hand, a well-known predator proved to be a battle-hardened warrior, with an imposing build making it one of the largest Cretaceous predators ever found, Sue, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Everything we know about these two animals will be compared 1-to-1, pitting their weapons, mass, and physical abilities to determine which one of these Rexes will win in a face-off.
Calling it now, REXY's gonna clutch it. She's gonna clutch it, because the Jurassic Park dinosaurs aren't built for, like, evolution. They're built for... Oh, wait, hang on. That might be a disadvantage. Oh my god, no, I don't know.
Who wins and who falls defeated? This is T-Rex versus T-Rex. Killer versus killer. Who will win? Find out at the end on Monster Face Off.
Well, my money's on
This
REXY,
face-off will
obviously.
involve both the most famous dinosaur in cinema and the best studied dinosaur of all time. Although seemingly similar, both paleontological evidence and feats seen on screen differ greatly. Even the slightest nuance will be taken into account to reveal who takes the edge in each category.
Oh, good heavens, look at the differences between these two. Sue is so much beefier, but REXY's like, I don't know, got more bite strength, I think, going on. I think REXY's got more beefy legs. Ooh, there's so many attributes to freaking
At the end, we'll
look
bear
at.
witness to a simulation pitting both of these animals and how they would react and deal with upon seeing each other for the first time. With that in mind, let's move on to the first attribute. Mass.
Oh, damn, REXY
It goes
loses this
without
one.
saying that Tyrannosaurus Rex had the most robust build out of any of the land predators in Earth's history.
Robust build is fancy talk for... Never mind.
Every rendition of the T-Rex in the past, regardless of their paleo accuracy, is portrayed to be a powerful dinosaur with an imposing physique. REXY was no different. Her design in the films is largely adherent to the Tyrannosaurus as it was known in the 1980s and the design portrayals of said dates. More specifically, the T-Rex specimen in the American Natural History Museum. REXY, for her film debut, had very large feet, very skinny legs, a thin torso, and blocky face with skin that is shrink-wrapped to the skeleton. This specimen, according to Dr. Thomas Carr, died out around the age of 26 and is estimated to have weighed 7 to 7.5 tons. This one had a taller build than many other Rexes, which does translate to REXY, who has a height of up to 18 feet depending on posture. In today's battle simulation, and for the sake of fairness, we'll study REXY at her prime. Her weight did fluctuate in the movies, being horribly skinny in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and visibly bulking up again in Jurassic World Dominion. To get the most accurate weight metric possible, the Goshi Center research team will resort to volumetric analysis, using a three-dimensional model of REXY and scaling her to adult proportions. The end result being an animal weighing in at close to 8.86 tons. How will the paleo-accurate Sue compare? This was first known about around the year 1990, but
Sue's
wasn't
huge,
studied
bro.
until after Jurassic Park came out. At that point, Sue became easily one of the most understood T-Rex skeletons of all time. That, in addition to being one of the oldest, having lived at least in her late 20s, if not early 30s. A T-Rex who survives this long would have been exceptionally large, which was the case for this animal. New understanding of T-Rex now reveals that Sue was actually in the highest percentile when it came to size, with
Wow.
other specimens like Scotty being the one other well-studied specimen in the same size class. Sue is still easily way above average for a Tyrannosaurus. Because her skeleton is so complete, we can use volumetric analysis on her body to get a better idea of how massive she could have been. This was possible thanks to our friends at EoFauna, a team formed by researchers, creatives, and specialists focused on prehistoric fauna, who produce high-detailed and paleo-accurate models of several prehistoric creatures, such as Giganotosaurus, Ankylosaurus, the Paleoloxodon, and, of course, one of Sue. Using the most up-to-date skeletal reconstructions, Eofauna created the most accurate model of Sue possible at 1/35 scale. Eofauna provided Goji Center with a 3D model of this specific T-Rex specimen to step into the analysis platform and square off against REXY later. The results of the volumetric analysis place Sue in ranks much higher than previously estimated, which in the 90s was around 6 tons, but a more accurate volumetric survey by Dan Folks instead puts Sue at well over 10 tons.
I freaking knew it. She's huge.
Sue compared to REXY had a much higher volume despite being shorter. Generally speaking, Sue is about 20% more massive than REXY at her highest weight estimate. Don't let this profile fool you.
That's gonna backfire so badly down the line. That's gonna be everything.
Volume difference is more noticeable up
Damn
front,
it.
which will be the angle REXY will be looking at the most during their encounter. The skull of Sue is longer and thicker. The torso is more robust, and the tail noticeably has more mass. REXY is a few feet taller than Sue depending on her posture, and to her proportionally long legs, her 4-foot length advantage is really due to a longer tail. So, who takes the edge?
Damn it, it's gonna backfire so badly, bro.
In this category, the one who takes the edge is the one with the most weight and weight distribution
Goji
advantage.
Center's so big on that kind of
being
stuff.
Taller and lighter is going to give REXY a higher center of gravity compared to Sue, meaning Sue will be much harder to topple over in a wrestling match. It will be Sue who will be likely to make the opponent take steps backward.
That's gonna be the death of REXY for sure. Goji Center's so big on this kind of stuff. Logically so, but it's like,
in this
no,
category,
that's death
Sue
right there.
takes the edge for mass.
Damn
But
it.
longer and taller will prove to have other benefits. Number 2, reach.
Well, there's
in
some
this
hope.
particular battle scenario between two of the same species, that being a species of animal that regularly got into fights with one another, we need to consider reach. The winner of this edge will determine who is more likely to strike first and more regularly. Many T-Rex skeletons, including that of REXY, show evidence of a myriad of bite marks and battle scars on the skull. This, amongst other findings, suggests that T-Rex relied on its skull as its primary offensive weapon. Based on this information, we can expect the simulation to show two T-Rexes facing each other at all times and wrestling head-on in order to be able to reach the most vulnerable areas. For this battle approach to work in favor of one contestant, body parts such as elongated torso and neck will be favorable. If we look at how REXY was designed in Jurassic Park, we do notice an elongated neck. That and the fact that REXY at her prime is actually 10% longer than Sue. Part of this would be the extended tail, however, but a good chunk was at the torso and neck, meaning that in a head-on collision, REXY, in combination with her height, would have her jaws positioned to bite Sue's body sooner. And her being quick on her feet means exploiting this reach will be easier. Sue does have a proportionally longer skull. Her wide lower stance will make accessing points like REXY's legs and arms easier as they are lower to the ground. But this does come at the cost of exposing the back of the neck and back muscles to REXY. In most of the head-on encounters, REXY should be able to have more opportunities to strike thanks to her longer reach and ability to rear up a bit higher than Sue. How potent the weapons are is another matter, but it does mean that the first hit will probably be inflicted by the in-gen creation.
I'm so worried about PSI. What's the get into bite strength? It's gonna be weight and bite strength. It's gonna determine the entire freaking fight, bro.
Edge,
I've fallen for this too many times.
Number 3, speed.
Speed won't mean anything.
For two large animals that will be fighting in close proximity,
It's gonna be
the
REXY,
use
but it
of
won't mean
speed
anything.
will be important when winding up a charge or trying to pull a tactical retreat. In combat, the ability to withdraw at will is vital. The exact science on how fast a T-Rex can go has been debated back and forth, and is still debated today. The lighter reconstruction of T-Rex in the 90s and less precise measurement systems gave it the 25 to 35 mile per hour estimate. Consequently, REXY was also given a speed within these parameters. Now, granted, this speed wasn't really showcased on screen, and also note that this recorded speed was taken from a T-Rex who wasn't fully grown, especially since we saw this same T-Rex break the scales at 44 feet in length upon maturing. Still, however, in-gen T-Rexes would be able to maintain a top speed of over 30 miles per hour, and we can see this play out in games such as Jurassic World Evolution.
Dude, side note, that scene in San Diego in Jurassic Jurassic Park 2, freaking Lost World, was like the most peak Jurassic moment in my whole life by far.
Showcasing the narrow-framed
So
T-Rex
great.
performing running gaits when moving at top speed. Various InGen clones such as the Buck seen in the Lost World and Big and Little Edie were seen moving at a fast pace close to 30 miles per hour. Even REXY in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion was actually able to keep pace with a moving helicopter.
Bro, we gotta talk about these names. Big Edie and Little Edie. Come on, it doesn't make us look good as a community.
It does seem that REXY will require enough open space to build up her top speed instead of reaching it right away. For real-life T-Rexes like Sue, things were a little different. Since Sue turned out to be a lot heavier than initially thought, the estimated top speed was reduced considerably for a big T-Rex. During its adolescent years, Tyrannosaurus would have been exceptionally fast before it put on a lot of bulk, trading speed for sheer size as it grew. Sue at her prime would be nowhere near as fast as she was when she was a teenager. The study of more updated models places the speed of 13 to 15 miles per hour for her size and age. This metric is still arguable. For instance, paleontologist and research director at EOFAUNA, Esier Laramendi, developed a mathematical equation for estimating theropod speed. In Sue's case, the initial calculation was 25 kilometers per hour, but was likely too conservative because the body mass boundary was too low. It was speculated that 35 kilometers per hour was more realistic. For comparison, that would be the top speed of a fit person running a 100-meter dash in 12 seconds. Estimates may change, but this is just to show Sue's top speed hasn't been set in stone yet. T-Rex legs were better for faster paced movement than those of an elephant, and these animals already reach 25 kilometers per hour. So this is why many paleontologists speculate that animals like Sue could
That's
fast
a good
walk
point
at
right there.
higher
I'm not gonna
speeds.
lie. It's a
Truth
good point.
be told, there's absolutely no real reason for these two animals to be running at full sprint during the majority of the fight, only needing to run this fast when ramming or running away.
That's why I knew it wouldn't matter. It's just gonna be the initial charge. Like freaking Rexy's gonna get in there, gonna get a good bite quick, and then it's gonna go horrible from there.
In this fight, REXY will have the best chance to pull off a retreat quicker if things turn south, and move to better terrain if the environment allows it. For this category, REXY takes the edge in speed. Number 4, agility. More important than speed when locked into close-quarter combat, the winner of this edge will have a critical advantage when it comes to targeting vital areas and getting around the opponent. The InGen Tyrannosaurus have been regularly outflanked, even by larger dinosaurs. In the midst of combat, they tend to rapidly step around in order to change position and direction. Despite being smaller and lighter, the bull from JP3 had a hard time staying atop the Spinosaurus, and Big Edie from Camp Cretaceous was roughly comparable against the same foe. This is in stark contrast to the real thing. It is actually possible that some of the large predators in the same size class as T-Rex could run faster, but this comes with a trade-off: maneuverability. We've discussed the specifics of Tyrannosaur hip anatomy before, but this advantage cannot be understated. T-Rex shares common ancestors with Coelurosaurs like birds and raptors, those who climbed trees and made their way through thick forests, while at the same time the ancestors of giant carnosaurs like Spinosaurus and the Giga were roaming open spaces. In this case, Sue's hip anatomy is much more optimized for agility than speed. To put this very simply, if a dinosaur's anatomy has better muscles and bones for speed, this means that there is a deficit on agility. In contrast, legs built to help maintain stamina but also change direction quickly have to sacrifice rigidity for agility. Whatever InGen did to increase their T-Rex speed might have compromised some of their agility. This is why even a fully grown Tyrannosaurus could make a 180-degree pivot on a single foot, being capable of rapidly changing direction. For comparison, note that the same study that found T-Rex to be as agile as it was gave it a score of about 2 to 2.5 times higher than that of Giganotosaurus.
Dude, REXY is so cooked right now. This is gonna be hard to watch, isn't it? This is gonna be so hard to watch.
Heavier. In Jurassic World, REXY was only roughly as agile as the Giga in Dominion, despite it being noticeably heavier. In this upcoming battle simulation, the extraordinarily fast animal will witness how surprisingly agile its ancestor actually was.
Twice as
for this
agile?
category, Sue takes the edge for agility. Number 5, senses. It's now time to discuss the battle attribute that will allow one of these to be able to lock into the opponent, but more importantly, who can spot the other first. This helps with setting up support.
This is so hard to watch because didn't T-Rexes have like amazing vision? But back when like REXY was made, it was like if you hold still, they won't notice you type of belief. So it was like, this is gonna go so badly.
Attacks or making hiding useless if one of them decides to run away. Both animals have extremely good senses of smell, which means ambushing the other by pure scent protection is an even game, and would rely more on who would be able to position themselves upwind, or just make less noise before they're spotted. The thick pads on Sue's feet and the ability for her to pick up on low-frequency sounds would make it easy for Sue to pick up on REXY's booming footsteps, in contrast to her own, which makes her almost undetectable to the ear. For actual fighting, however, the main concern would be the eyesight, and this is where things can get tricky. The eyesight of Sue and REXY may initially seem similar, but there's more than meets the eye here. Sue would have a 55-degree field of binocular vision and a highly developed fovea. REXY, on the other hand, due to her eye orientation and broadened snout, would have less binocular vision than Sue. This does mean that REXY would have a wider range of vision than Sue. REXY's eyesight does have an infamous drawback that we must mention. In the Jurassic franchise, the concept of whether or not a T-Rex can see stationary objects has gone back and forth. Putting it all together, the answer might be that they can see stationary objects, but would key in on moving targets a whole lot more. This lack of precise vision might also explain why InGen T-Rexes in many situations in the franchise tend to flail about, attacking anything they can reach instead of focusing on potential weak spots that would end the battle much quicker. And let's be real, with that kind of bite, T-Rex would end all fights very fast. But in many cases, they didn't. They just try to bite down and bash anything they can get in striking range. This also suggests a less than optimal degree in depth perception. Sue, meanwhile, like most real-life Tyrannosaurus, had superb vision.
I knew it was going to go down this way, and I'm still upset.
As stated in a presentation by Dr. Thomas Holtz, a key reason why T-Rex had a good depth perception might have been in part adapting to dodge retaliation attacks from very directional-oriented opponents like Triceratops, where you have to get around the horns to avoid getting hurt and injure the prey animal. So, knowledge of where the critical points are isn't going to do you much good if you don't have the ability to accurately hit them. Her wide field of vision would allow REXY to not be snuck up on by other animals, but at the cost of precision. Sue has the entire fossil record speaking in her favor, with plenty of fossils showing evidence that T-Rex would bite the tail to disable locomotive muscles, restraining the frill of a Triceratops to avoid getting gored, or controlling the face of another T-Rex to avoid getting bit.
It's not fair, because Sue was made up by evolution and REXY was made up by a bunch of Hollywood cokeheads. It's just not fair.
REXY's more maniac strategy, because of her senses, would probably land more hits, but Sue would likely be targeting critical points.
Bro, there's nothing on REXY's side right now.
We'll go to Sue.
Damn it.
Number 6, experience.
It's gonna be Sue again.
This may seem like an odd thing to quantify, but if we're going to compare an animal that lived in the wild in a natural ecosystem with regular growth patterns and a wide variety of opponents to a bioengineered creature growing in an artificial ecosystem, then yes, discussing this attribute is a must.
What does REXY even have going for? There was like one thing. I don't see how this is gonna turn around at all.
There's a lot of evidence that suggests that Sue was an individual with tons of valuable experience under her belt, the most important being encounters with other predators and prey. Remnant evidence of this is the myriad of healed battle scars and injuries on the face and body, showing old wounds, infections, and healed fractures. Broken ribs that healed might have come from hunts or fights with other tyrannosaurs. If we take into account the type of dinosaurs that Sue hunted down, compare them with those that REXY had to encounter on a regular basis, we'll see that there is a difference in the type of dangers both had to encounter. Better adept and larger quantity of ceratopsians, hadrosaurs that dwarfed the pathetic miniature-sized Parasaurolophus and Oranosaurus from Nublar, and higher number of T-Rex encounters than REXY ever had. Fossils of several prey animals, including one of a T-Rex, show that the tail was a primary target. One of the most popular findings in T-Rex research was that of the infamous Y-Rex, a T-Rex specimen that was found with part of its tail missing.
Yeah, just just take this in for a moment, you know what I mean? Because, like, damn, like, they really were just lizards, weren't they?
The common consensus being that it was probably another T-Rex that bit it off, suggesting that animals like Sue would consider this body part as a target and a way to handicap another rival predator, hindering mobility in the future. An animal as old as Sue would have had an opportunity to inflict these countermeasures against other T-Rexes more frequently, whereas REXY couldn't. REXY, throughout her life, has faced a much lesser amount of larger theropods. It is important to mention now that REXY is legendarily aggressive. Almost every single time she encountered another large carnivore, not of her own kind, her instinct was to attack it. Even when the dinosaur is physically bigger than her, she still rushes it, and every single time, she ended up losing. This also translates when it hunts. Unlike the real animal, REXY seems to be very noisy and reckless. It was only after her later years when we saw her make smarter decisions, like backing off when facing a superior animal like Biosyn's modified Giga. This, however, was knowledge that would have been acquired by Sue much earlier in her lifetime.
Well, if you show all her dorky scenes, then she looks stupid. Dude, I can't defend REXY anymore.
While Sue would have spent most of her life out in the wild growing up amidst other deadly herbivores and rival T-Rexes, REXY would spend the same span of time in an enclosure with goats as the main entree. For this category, the clear edge will go to Sue for combat experience.
It's everything.
Number 7, intelligence.
Before
we compare these crushing bite forces, let's try to figure out who would have a better chance of figuring out the opponent's intentions and weaknesses faster than the other.
I guess REXY did test the electric fence. That was pretty freaking cool, but probably only... I don't think there's going to be electric fences in this fight.
InGen T-Rexes show pretty advanced intelligence, especially when coupled with others of their own kind or by themselves. Jurassic Rex's behavior inclines slightly towards the emotional realm. One example is how she willfully didn't attack Blue after the Indom was dealt with. Whether this was out of respect or appreciation for the raptor, or REXY simply being pragmatic, is debatable. But consider how this same thing happened when Tyrannosaurus showed up to attack the Giga. Here, REXY chose to not attack the Tyrannosaurus afterwards. Again, whether this was a form of respect or just simply self-preservation, it still proves that REXY has moments where she can make good decisions. Rexes in this franchise are quite vengeful and will look to get payback given the opportunity, such as the grudge that laid waste to parts of San Diego after the Buck's offspring was taken from him, or Big Edie looking for a rematch after the Spino initially took her down. Back to REXY, we see her constantly use the environment to her advantage, such as bashing the Indom into buildings after realizing that just biting down wasn't really working, and figuring out that throwing the Giga into another opponent, one with really pointy weapons that is, would likely end bad for the Giga. And it sure as hell was. Actions such as testing the electric fence before proceeding to knock it all the way down
That's what I'm saying.
Examples that REXY, like the other InGen creations, were some of the smartest animals in this franchise. These are all feats seen on camera, but what about those of a specimen that died 66 million years ago? Figuring out the intelligence of an already extinct animal is difficult. Methods such as brain-to-body ratios in certain animals have already been proven to be inaccurate in some cases, especially when it comes to birds and reptiles. Being bird-brained per se is actually kind of a compliment, as these modern dinosaurs have typically extremely dense neuron networks in their brains despite them being small. Larger animals tend to have proportionally smaller brains, and is led on the stereotype idea that dinosaurs, especially the really big ones, are dumb. T-Rex had one of, if not the largest brain of all dinosaurs, both in absolute terms and just relative to its size. Social behaviors are one of the only concrete pieces of evidence we have, with more evidence of T-Rex cooperating with each other than what we have of raptors.
How the hell did they get that 3D model of a T-Rex brain, though? That's the real question here. Also, more than raptors is crazy.
This, along with a fairly lengthy growth stage and not reaching full size until 20 years old, this means that they had more time to learn by both experience and watching individuals from their own group. Not all T-Rexes growing up would have made it to adulthood. A common trait of infantile behavior is recklessness, so there would be cases in which a less intelligent Rex would get itself killed in front of another T-Rex who surely won't make the same mistake again. Sue probably being one of them. T-Rex bites to the horns and frill of Triceratops, tail of Edmontosaurus, and face of Ankylosaurs shows these predators knew how to disable prey effectively by both avoiding their weapons and minimizing the chance of getting hurt. The common estimate accepted amongst many scientists has it that T-Rex was as intelligent as many modern predators, such as large cats and birds of prey. All of these animals do show the vengeful traits that were seen in the InGen Rexes, who do share complex affection and care for each other. For this category, a fair level of intelligence is an attribute equally present in both of these animals.
That's like the first remotely Rexy win in a while, bro. This is gonna be the roughest battle ever.
Making this a draw in intelligence. Now, let's get to the bloody business.
This is what really matters, the bite strength.
Effectiveness. Now it's time to delve into the legendary bite force that established T-Rex as the sovereign apex land predator of all time. Furthermore, this fight will feature two very similar bite forces, but the damage inflicted isn't entirely identical. Both Tyrannosaurs have roughly comparable sized jaws and teeth.
It's not even gonna matter. Rexy's gonna have more bite strength, but Sue's gonna have a much thicker neck, which basically invalidates the bite strength greatly. Combined with her big strength and prowess and intelligence and experience, she's gonna beat the crap out of Rexy. I know this is gonna go down.
Depending on how many teeth make contact, the PSI metric for the bite force could vary wildly, but averaged between 8K to 10K PSI. Because both InGen and real T-Rex have, on paper, similar biting forces, the main focus of this section and what will determine who has the most effective bite will be the slight nuances in the shape of the teeth. The narrower, more knife-like serrated-shaped teeth of Jurassic Park T-Rexes were modified by the animatronics modeling team to make them look more menacing than the real thing. Believe it or not, this seemingly more frightening look ironically hinders the full bite force potential. Yes, knife-like serrated teeth like those of the Giga and Carcharodontosaurus are better for slicing and shredding victims, so in theory, shouldn't these InGen T-Rex teeth have the ability to slice and shred like a Carnosaur? To a degree, yes, but there's a reason why Carcharodontosaurid skulls look like this and not like this. For these knife-like teeth to work effectively, the shape of the skull and articulation on the jaw muscles made it easier for the Giga to open its mouth wider and snap down much quicker than any T-Rex could. Carnosaurs like the Giga would bite with rapid movements and cause lacerations and extremely bloody wounds. The actual T-Rex had a very different strategy. And Jurassic, as they normally do in this franchise, ended up nerfing Rexy's bite by mounting on the wrong teeth. The real T-Rex teeth are serrated and can lacerate flesh, but their more robust teeth are actually primarily built for piercing, gripping, and wrenching off chunks of meat. These may possibly be the culprit as to why most of the bites from an InGen T-Rex are easily shrugged off by rival predators. For a T-Rex, securing a firm hold is crucial. With an 8 to 10,000 PSI bite force, teeth that slice through flesh this easily wouldn't really hold too well, but cut just fine. And yes, this will most definitely be painful, but the real T-Rex teeth, in contrast, are a different story.
Oh God.
A 2005 study found that the optimal bite gap between 28 to 63 degrees would inflict the highest biting pressure around the latter part of the jaw.
Never mind, Rexy's not even gonna win that one. She's got nothing.
Biting on anything too wide would diminish bite force. And yes, this rule will apply to both T-Rexes. But for Sue, this wouldn't be a big deal. Remember, real T-Rex depth perception was superior, which allows it to pinpoint exactly where to bite and where it will be most effective. This gets worse. Another study showed that unlike other theropods, T-Rex teeth differed slightly across the maw. The teeth in front were for securing a firm grip, whereas the middle ones punched deep and the ones in the back applied the most force. Although Rexy's superior range might make it land more hits, one well-targeted bite from Sue would be catastrophic. As soon as these teeth sink in, the only way to escape would be to leave a chunk of flesh behind. And be it a vital organ or vulnerable area, the opponent will most definitely be looking at a potential fatal injury. The real thing shows why nature's authentic product once again proves superior.
I've never seen such an uneven, comparison in these videos before. It's never been this, one-sided, you know what I mean?
Sue takes the edge for
Poor
bite
Rexy,
effectiveness.
she sucks.
Part 9, Auxiliary Weapons. Apart from using their skull for inflicting lethal bites, and given that in this fight both of these combatants will be looking straight at each other for the majority of the fight, both animals will likely use their skulls as a form of blunt force weapon. Now, Tyrannosaurus Rex was not specialized for head bashing like Carcharodontosaurids, but they could manage some pretty respectable forces with their robust skulls and mass. The points of contact that we'll compare in this section will be the lacrimal and post-orbital bones, forming the brow ridge. One might think that these two Rexes have identical skulls, but just like animals today, not every skeleton is exactly the same.
I'm so worried about Rexy's giant eyebrow ridges right now.
And this is the case with both the skulls of Sue and REXY. For REXY, we'll take impact surface area and speed into account.
I'm sure her eyebrow ridges are much more tough.
Of her skull based on head shape, we see that her post-orbital bones are pointed, meaning the force will focus on a smaller area, yielding a higher PSI.
Well, there you go.
By crunching these numbers into the impact force formula, we get an estimate of a hit that inflicts 11,000 PSI, assuming REXY was able to wind up enough speed and rammed the opponent perfectly.
What's crazy is, isn't Mike Tyson's punch like 1,600 PSI? It's crazy that they can't be right.
Committing to such blows does have risks, especially if striking another skull head-on. Instead, REXY would aim to hit a soft area such as the flank or rib cage, causing bruising, or if Sue is caught off guard, fracturing some ribs.
But Sue's too bottom-heavy.
Sue had a much more smoother skull compared to many Tyrannosaurs. Even with any keratinous brow buildup, the point of contact would be spread along a wider area. Even factored in with her top running speed, this would still inflict lower damage forces than REXY. A more tenable strategy would be leveraging her faster rotation speed. This way, Sue would likely deploy head bashing, pivoting on her feet to swing aside to bludgeon if they can't land a bite. Doing so with optimal windup might produce forces of up to 4,500 PSI over a wide area.
My God, she looks thick in this part of the video. Holy crap, dude, Rexy's so
admittedly,
screwed.
both the 11,000 and 4,500 PSI would happen under optimal circumstances. So, logically speaking, the final impact forces in a fight would be much lower. In order for this to be at all effective, Sue would have to use this maneuver to spar or even parry an incoming bite from REXY. This is extremely useful and may open a way for a counterattack, especially coming from an aggressive REXY. The edge for this category will be given to an animal that can inflict the most damage. If REXY does decide to wind up a charge with enough distance and actually lands a hit, the damage will be greater, weakening or bruising Sue if hit on the right spot. The numbers speak for themselves, and REXY's impact force is indeed greater.
That's all she gets. Bruising her, maybe? Man.
Whether Sue is able to reverse this or survive this impact remains to be seen, but for this category, REXY will take a clear edge when it comes to auxiliary weapons.
Like a 10% edge.
We are almost ready to unleash our combatants to the simulation, but first, the X Factor attribute. Today, relentlessness will be taken into account. In this special edition of Monster Face-Off, we'll include this new attribute to explain something interesting that may or may not occur in this fight. In the real world, encounters between two apex predators tend to end with the loser retreating from the fight. No point in culminating a battle that was clearly lost. This was most likely the case back when a T-Rex encountered another T-Rex. In the past, carnivores absolutely could be brutal, but only to the same degree that they are now. A study on lion fatalities by George V. Scheller and a similar study of tigers found that same-species combat accounts for only 15% of adult fatality rates. This sounds like a lot, but that is actually lower than combat with other different species. Similarly, we can deduct that the vast majority of the fights between the two Rexes did not end in fatalities. Numerous healed injuries on the face of T-Rex skeletons are a testament to this.
I don't know, man. 15% of lion deaths being from other lions does sound kind of crazy.
Not that they couldn't kill each other, they most certainly could. It's just that they didn't have to kill each other every time. InGen theropods, meanwhile, were anything but cautious, and self-preservation was something that wasn't kept in mind in most cases. Spinosaurus and Indominus are examples of borderline psychos when they get angry, and InGen T-Rex were no different. Almost every single time one of the T-Rex clones encountered another large theropod, they immediately go on the attack first. It makes sense that a lot of the promo material shown before Dominion's release categorized REXY with a very high aggression level. The moment any downed InGen T-Rex catches a second wind, they are right back on attack mode. Big Edie did something similar after recovering from the neck injury, rushing back to attack the Spino, and this happened here in Dominion. After being driven back by the Giga in the first skirmish, what does this aging REXY do? Travel through a burning forest, no heed towards any fire, to square up with a predator bigger, stronger, and much younger than her. And
you know, I never really realized how freaking awesome Jurassic Park T-Rexes are. They're making them sound amazing right now.
Attack again. Why does this happen? And is there a way to explain what inevitably might happen in this face-off? The growth rate of InGen Tyrannosaurus might be partially responsible. REXY went from hatchling to full size in only a few years. By comparison, a natural T-Rex would usually take 18 to 20 years to grow to considerable size. A real T-Rex's size would plateau at a certain age, only growing very slowly, increasing bulk as years went by. REXY, in contrast, kept going at a steady pace in a very short time. This implies something strange going on with her pituitary gland. Maybe an intentional genetic alteration to try and quickly stock the first park with more impressive adult-sized dinosaurs, or this may have been an accident in the gene splicing phase. This gland in the brain is what controls and regulates growth, so disorders here can also affect the adrenal gland. This might explain the heightened aggression and higher than typical hunger response. This urge to attack regardless of anything and depression odds backed up by adrenal imbalances may work in favor of REXY. Similarly, a more calmed approach and self-preservation may also kick in after. We are now ready to reveal which T-Rex will crown itself with the coveted title of Tyrant Queen. Jurassic's REXY wins the edge in having superior reach, faster running speed, and auxiliary weapons.
I feel like auxiliary weapons was almost just like a cop-out to give REXY something also, you know what I mean?
Sue, in her imposing
She's got
form,
everything,
wins the edge in
bro.
overall mass, agility, senses, experience, and bite effectiveness. Both prove to be intelligent combatants thanks to feats seen on screen and evidence from the fossil record. Today's T-Rexes will see each other for the first time alongside the plains and forests of the Hell Creek Formation. The stage is set. The combatants are ready. Coming up, Jurassic Park's REXY versus Sue, the Tyrant Queen.
The following depicts a combat simulation between two Tyrannosaurs. The occurrence of a fatality will heavily depend on which... I gotta read faster, like just in general. Damn, she's even got lipstick on. She's all dressed up and ready to party. The REXY. The freaking... like, the ground trembles was so awesome initially, but it is such a major disadvantage. But if that was like Ian Malcolm she was hunting, he'd be crapping his pants right now. This thing's just so like ridiculously inbred from like the DNA they originally acquired that it can't even freaking see unless you're like moving. I don't know, man. It's just horrible. I know they specified it just favors moving things over holding still things, but or stationary. Look at her lipstick. She looks like Shrek's dragon wife. I know that's blood, but you know what I mean. God, that sounds terrifying. REXY, you dumb idiots. Oh, God. She's gonna bite REXY's tail off, isn't she? We're gonna see a tailless REXY right now. REXY's got a little bit more pushback. My God! Damn, REXY's disoriented. But now she's angry. What's she doing? Oh God, it's a body weight slam off. And one weighs a whole lot. Oh God, your fingers, REXY! Yeah, that's coming off. That thing is horrifying. It's like the Joker. Ew, look at REXY's little nubbin. God, that thing looks like it's like blatantly winning and it's getting evil about it. It's getting dark. Things are getting crazy. Oh! Oh, no. I don't even want to see a tailless Rexy. Oh, thank God. I didn't think yet. Oh, no, that's what I was worried about. No, that's so horrible. Universal should sue. Oh, my God. Woof. Wow, that is a haunting video there, a haunting sight. Tailless Rexy. Ew, look at her wobbling off. Ew. Ew, that's so gross. Shameful. Shameful walk off after that. T-Rex without its tail. That's crazy. That's horrifying, bro. Horrifying ending. I almost would have rather preferred they just kill Rexy.
Simulation, it was Sue who came out victorious in this fight. For the first time ever in Monster Face-Off, the winner of the fight did not inflict the killing blow. This is because, as was usual in territorial dispute, the defeated dinosaur would rather take off instead of culminating an already determined loss. Had Rexy won this encounter, the end result might have been different. So, why did Sue win? Both Rexy and Sue did win the edge in important attributes. But the factors that carried more weight in this particular battle were a combination of mass, senses, experience, and bite effectiveness. This battle began with both T-Rexes being able to detect each other from far away. Both Sue and Rexy did know where a very large predator was lurking about in the same area. It was Sue, however, who managed to stealthily find Rexy first, startling her into an aggressive encounter. Rexy, as usual, would have been the first aggressor. Sue, in contrast, would have been looking to settle this dispute in a non-violent manner. But Rexy isn't wired like she is. This fight escalated a little too quickly. Upon charging, the quicker Rexy attempts to strike first. What should have been an initial bite turned into a missed headbutt into the flank and thigh of Sue, who with her greater agility managed to switch lanes and avoid the first bite. Sue's maneuverability now places her in a position to bite a quickly moving Rexy, managing to bite and tear off a small chunk of flesh from the tail.
I was worried about that small chunk of flesh. I thought it would come into play a lot more.
Muscle in an attempt to handicap the quicker opponent. Rexy, on the other hand, just now ran into a shorter but agile T-Rex. For her, it was as if she ran into a wall. After another wrestling match, Rexy's longer reach and more bladed teeth managed to inflict some nasty cuts on Sue, but it was only a matter of time before Sue managed to hit something that mattered. After missing the caudofemoralis for the second time due to her shorter reach, she quickly opts for a proportionally longer arm of Rexy, wrenching it off. After this type of injury, this is where a T-Rex territorial dispute would likely end. Any other T-Rex would back off at this point, but this isn't just any other T-Rex. This is Rexy we're talking about, so it will take a bit more to turn her away.
I like how quick her blood coagulated.
The locomotive
Pretty
muscles,
cool.
Sue now resorts to yet another common attack maneuver against other T-Rexes, a bite to the head. With Sue's stronger teeth dug deep in her skull, and Rexy never in her life feeling anything like this, she decides that enough is enough and breaks for it. Sue, however, is not finished. Now with her primary target in range, Sue now grabs a good hold of Rexy's tail. Once a T-Rex bites its teeth into something, it's just as good as lost. Rexy, in desperation and already with her mind set on retreating, leaves her tail behind. Sue, upon witnessing Rexy walk away, does not pursue. The point has most definitely been made.
Pursue? Sorry.
And Rexy will never enter this territory again. Years of paleontological study on the most popular dinosaur of all time constantly remind us of how biology and years of evolution brought forth the perfect killing machine.
That's what I was saying. It was evolution and biology versus like Hollywood cokehead writers. Rexy was damned from the start.
A perfect balance of raw strength, agility, and brains. The product of nature itself once again proves to be second to none. Far superior than the tampered product of mankind.
The hubris of man once again led to our downfall, Rexy's downfall. Dude, this is crazy. This is a good video. That's a sweet model of Sue. I gotta get that. I gotta get that for sure. I don't have much to say about this video though. Like you can kind of tell Rexy was gonna get the crap kicked out of her from the beginning. It's a cool concept to see, but yeah, it's Rexy, as beautiful as she is an abomination created by mankind. They freaking like nerfed all of its amazing attributes to make it more flashy for like guests to show up or to show off at an amusement park. She's an abomination, but she's She's so beautiful, you know what I mean? Good video, though. Just sad ending for Rexy, but you can see it coming from a freaking mile away. But yeah, leave a like if you made it to the end. Subscribe to Goshi Center, and I'll see you next time.